Today marks the 4-year anniversary of the UK formally leaving the European Union. It was on the 31st of January 2020 when Boris Johnson declared he'd finally got Brexit done, hailing it as an astonishing moment of hope.
4 years later, several issues remain as divisive as ever. Controlling our borders, British economic interests and freedom of movement in Europe. Well, to discuss how Brexit is impacting the farming industry over the past 4 years is Gareth Wyn Jones, live on his farm, I believe. Morning to you, Gareth. Thanks so much for talking to us. Give us then an idea, when we left the European Union, what impact did you think it was going to have on your business and how has it actually?
Well, let's start with I voted Remain, so you know, I had to go with something that maybe I was against, but when the majority vote has to go, we have to deal with it. So our worry was, you know, as Welsh hill farmers, the majority of the lamb we produce is exported into Europe. So that was our biggest worry, that we weren't being able to export our lamb. But we were very fortunate, and we had, you know, a free trade agreement with the Europeans where our lamb is allowed through. So, you know, it hasn't affected us very much on that side of things.
How about the new border rules which have begun today? Did they affect you at all? The shelf life of fresh food from coming into UK from mainland Europe could leave some deliveries from the EU unsustainable. Is that an advantage for British farmers?
Do you know what? I think we're in such a fragile situation with food production. We need to be, as an island, more self-sufficient. And I think, you know, the rules and regulations some of these governments are bringing in. And if we look across Europe, why are all the farmers out protesting in France, in Germany, in Romania? You know, that these farmers are out protesting, and these people are the last people to go out and protest. It's because rules and regulations are killing their industry. Supermarkets are squashing, you know, every single drop of sweat, blood and tears from these people so they can have profits for the hedge funds. So it's a very, very sad situation across Europe at the moment. In Great Britain, you know, we're devolved in Wales now with our, you know, our farming subsidies. So all that's changing since we're not having money from Europe, and it's going to be a very difficult time for upland farmers. Well, for all farmers, to be honest with you. They're talking about in Wales now for this new greening for 10% of every farm in Wales to be planted under trees. You know, it's moving away from food production. And as a small island, we need to be careful. You know, I think if we don't have food security, Brexit or no Brexit, you know, people will go hungry, and we could be sleepwalking into food shortages, especially what we're seeing in Europe and across the world.
Just looking at sort of today, the farm that you're working on, what are the things that make life more difficult? And are any of those things something that could be improved by the fact that we left the EU?
Yeah, we could have a better price for our lamb. We could, yeah, there's a lot of things that we could improve. But I think, you know, we need to be looking at ourselves as an island and be supporting more British agriculture, you know, growing more of our own food. And I think, as an island now with a growing population, and we're losing land every day to roads, to housing, to solar farms, to wind farms, you know, so we can have this green agenda and to grow trees. We have to be self-sufficient. So I'm saying, you know, since we've moved on from the European Union, let's look at ourselves. Let's look at the British countryside. Let's build a better Britain on our belly. Let's have a farming food revolution in this country and start to back British agriculture. You know, no farms, no food. You know, there's a lot of things that we can...
Sorry to interrupt. What does that look like? What practical measures would you like to see implemented that could realise that vision that you've just explained to us?
Okay, so let's look at local food, okay? Let's look at seasonal food. Let's, you know, start growing more of our own grub in this country. And you know, I was on a farm last year down in Cornwall where they've put like a big tent over their slurry pit, which is capturing the methane off the cow poo, and it's driving a tractor. You know, that methane could be used to grow our tomatoes, to grow our cucumbers. We don't need to be importing it from the Algiers, you know, from Spain, and where the slavery and cheap food comes from. Let's be more self-sufficient. We've seen what happened in Ukraine when the war broke out. You know, people were struggling, you know, to put food onto supermarket shelves. Let's back British agriculture. Let's get behind them. There's a lot of innovation that we can use to develop to produce more food in this country, more sustainable, more seasonal, more regenerative. You know, there's some clever people. There's some fantastic innovation that we all should work together to make sure that we're self-sufficient as possible. Don't forget, we're only about 64% self-sufficient. So if anything happened, we could only feed this country till August. After August, then everybody's going to go hungry. So, you know, if them borders close and what's happening in Europe now, less food will be coming in from France or from Italy, from Germany, whatever it's imported from Spain. You know, we're in trouble. We're in trouble as a small island because, you know, growing population needs to be fed, and the fed affordably. But let's not forget that. You know, that's a big, big thing for farmers to be doing, to feed people affordably, environmentally friendly, sustainably. All these things are relevant, and we're very lucky. We've got a temperate climate here where we can grow a lot of grass and produce that grass into milk, cheese, yogurts, and into lamb, into beef. You know, these are sustainable foods that we've been eating for generations. We need to protect that.
Gareth, thank you so much. A sheep farmer in Snowdonia talking to us about, well, the different sort of layers of red tape that have been put or taken off in the last 4 years, because it is 4 years since we left the European Union. Actually, I was working that night in Parliament Square when there was a big rally. It was actually at 11 o'clock, not at midnight, 11 o'clock our time, that we left the European Union.
We stuck to the EU timings.
We did. But there was such this excitement, and people were kind of absolutely beside themselves. They thought, we've finally done it. I wonder if you were one of those people that was celebrating 4 years ago, how satisfied are you now, 4 years later, with the outcome?